determined to arrest a situation. I'll give you a proverb. In our place, there's something that happened. A mad person saw a chicken or a fowl that was killed by the train. And she picked up the fowl and said, if you did not hear the vibration of the train coming through the rail line, did you also not hear when the train was running? Because the reason I'm saying this is that the world knows that if we continue the way we are going, pretending that we are not hearing the sound of the train coming through the rail or not hearing the horn, that climate change has come and has come seriously, then we tend to be deceiving ourselves. It is important that everyone realizes that. Today, we are talking about net zero. We are talking about laws. We are talking about who is getting it right. Like she said, no one has gotten it right completely. But there's need for us to work as one team. Because climate change, pollution, they are borderless. If anybody told people from the western part of Europe a few years back that flash flood was going to kill people in developed countries like Germany, Belgium, and even in China, it would have sounded like Greek. But we used to say climate change is issuing warning shots. These are no longer warning shots. These are living with us. So that's why trying to attain net zero is important. But we want to see genuine efforts. Because without genuine efforts, and from what we learned from COVID, wherever it starts from is going to get to the other side. That's why all hands must be on deck. So in conclusion, I would like to say that for us, with what we've been able to do on the NDCs, how we have raised the NDC, what we've been able to do, how we have also been able to factor in our law that if you do anything that is not positive in terms of tackling the issues of climate change, you are guilty of an offense. And also given the fact that the Supreme Court of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has given a verdict that anyone can stand up and take up a suit against a company or an individual that is not acting in a proper form. So I do believe that this COP offers us a tremendous opportunity of coming together, of not pretending that we are going to wait till tomorrow. Because like I said, if we did not hear the sound of the train, 6 or 8 minutes. But I can see that there's some kind of flexibility, so I intend to also work within that. Again, thank you very much. I will speak briefly, actually, from the Nigerian perspective, on the issues of net zero, NDCs, green recovery, and like she said, who is getting it right. But this one is going to be strictly from the Nigerian angle. Nigeria, as some of you are aware, is on the western part of Africa. And as today, the population is about 211 million people. And out of this number, about 60% of that are very young people who are raring to go. So, at the first instance, or at the first glance, you are likely to see that as some kind of time bomb. But when you look at it from the reverse side, you again appreciate that this is investors' heaven that we are looking at. And I'm saying that bearing in mind what happened when we did privatization of the telecommunications industry. We encouraged some of the established telecommunications firms to come and join in the privatization exercise in early 2000. But they considered it a risky business. But those who took the chance, who braved it, eventually realized that with Nigeria's population, any opening is an investor's heaven. Then I'm also going to look at Nigeria from the angle of what we call the Sahel challenge. Because for those of us who come from Nigeria, we know that the crisis coming from Sahel, talking about areas bordering Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, coming down to Chad, that is now largely a difficult area to inhabit. Because desertification, drought, and the rest of them have combined to render those places very difficult for anybody to farm or to do agriculture. Consequently, we see a push from there down to the northern part of Nigeria. And that has disrupted a lot of things, bringing with it desertification, drought, and of course you may also have heard about the drying up of Lake Chad. So these are challenges that Nigeria faces. And of course, when you bring this into context or juxtapose it against the UN resolution of 63281 of 2009 that talked about the security implications of what the revenue that comes from oil. And part of that, of course, you know, is also coming from gas. So purely, Nigeria's economy is fossil fuel based. And that's why when we are discussing about how to arrive at net zero, what approaches are you adopting, then you have to factor that in and juxtapose it against the realities of the time and know exactly how you are going to execute this to be able to arrive there without necessarily totally disrupting everything or at the end of the day creating poverty and hunger or even crisis. For us in Nigeria, we are ready, and we have done that, to show that we want to transit to net zero. But like I said, we are doing it in a cautious way. January 2021, it was discovered that the gas reserves in Nigeria is about 206.53 trillion cubic feet. And that's huge. If you add that to oil, you know we have a lot underground. So in our transition to net zero, we have to really bear in mind that gas will serve as a fuel bridge for us to transit, because we know it is also harmful, but not exactly the way we are seeing direct fuel. So this is part of what we are taking along as we are going. However, bearing this in mind, I was able, by the grace of God, to sponsor a bill on climate change, which, by the special grace of God, has passed through the National Assembly and is now awaiting presidential assent. But in doing that bill, we factored in the issues of how we have enhanced our NDCs, because we worked on that and submitted it to the UNCCC in June of this year. And we did that taking into account some of the positive changes that have, occurred. When we did the NDCs between 2015 and submitted, I think 2017, we set the unconditional standard of 20%, and then the other one voluntary, which is going to be dependent on the resources that we get, which is a part of the 100 billion that we're expecting. And that one was going to be 45%. But between then and now, we have increased that to 47%. That one was going to be 45%. But between then and now, we have increased that to 47%. And we have also identified, instead of 3 pollutants, we've been able to identify 11. And we also talked about gender mainstreaming to factor everything in and make sure that our NDC is significantly enhanced. And that's why when President Buhari spoke a few weeks back, just early this week at the UN, at the COP conference, he talked about how far we have gone, and he was able to make the landmark pronunciation about Nigeria, attaining net zero by the year 2060. Now, the other question is, what have we been able to do to help us move or transit to net zero? What is the content of our laws? What have we captured? What other laws are helping us to be able to put these things together? For instance, the Supreme Court of Nigeria in 2009 passed, gave a landmark verdict that on the issue of pollution, you don't have to have local standing before you go to court, which now emboldens environmentalists to be able to challenge either a company or an individual that is not acting properly. In addition, in clause 34 of the bill, which has passed, we also stated that anybody that engages in any practice that negatively affects the resolve of the nation to attain net zero or any climate activity, such a person is guilty of an offense. So these are some of the steps that we have taken coming from the legal aspect to demonstrate that we are committed to this. But then, as we are talking about being committed to that, then it reminds one, it comes back to mind about the efforts that the developed nations are making to support the developing nations to actually move to net zero. It brings back to mind, the promises made at Copenhagen. How much of that has been realized? Are we being driven to attain net zero, and by the same time, you produce net hunger for the people of, developing world? Or are we truly determined to arrest a situation? I'll give you a proverb. In our place, there's something that happened. A mad person saw we did not hear the sound of the train. Did we also not hear the horn? We have to work as a team and ensure that we attain net zero. But having said that anyway, let me conclude by saying that whatever efforts we are going to make, we have to carry people along. This is very, very important. If we are transiting and you don't have the rest of the world coming with you, because I've heard what you said, the tremendous progress that the British people have made, and of course I've seen what the people in Sweden, so many other countries, Denmark, everyone is putting, just very soon when they are going to hit net zero. We all would like to hit net zero as soon as possible. However, it's important that whatever we are doing in attaining net zero must be fair, it must be just, and it must be inclusive in such a way that it captures the vulnerable societies and communities amongst us. And above all, whatever we're going to do must have a human face. It must not be draconian in a form. I want to thank you for your time, and I'll wait for whatever questions that may come. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy Onuigbo. I would now like to introduce our third panellist, Deputy Bénédicte Pérolle from the National Assembly of France. Deputy Pérolle was elected in 2017 and is a member of the Finance, General Economy and Budgetary Control Committee, and she is joining us remotely. Deputy Pérolle, we look forward to hearing you.
Thank you. Hi everyone, chers collègues, bonjour depuis la France. Tout d'abord, je tiens à remercier les organisateurs de l'événement actuel, Globe législateur dans le cadre de cette COP26 et de m'avoir sollicité pour intervenir devant vous. C'est un véritable honneur de partager l'expérience parlementaire française sur les enjeux climat. J'ai répondu positivement sans hésitation à cette invitation parce que je crois et je suis convaincue que la lutte contre le dérèglement climatique et la protection de la planète ne se fera pas sans une coopération internationale efficace et compréhensive des contraintes de chacun des pays 26 et de m'avoir sollicité pour intervenir devant vous. C'est un véritable honneur de partager l'expérience parlementaire française sur les enjeux climat. J'ai répondu positivement sans hésitation à cette invitation parce que je crois et je suis convaincue que la lutte contre le dérèglement climatique et la protection de la planète ne se fera pas sans une coopération internationale efficace et compréhensive des contraintes de chacun des pays du monde. Pour réussir, nous devons agir ensemble dans la même direction. Nos parlements, qui sont la voix des peuples, doivent être des forces de proposition, mais aussi de pression. Et c'est ce que je m'évertue de faire ici en France pour que nos gouvernements agissent en responsabilité pour le long terme et pas seulement dans un court terme qui est bien souvent d'opportunisme électoral. Comme vous le rappeliez, j'ai été élue en 2017, j'ai été élue à 26 ans au sein de la majorité d'Emmanuel Macron. Je n'avais jamais fait de politique avant, mon engagement était essentiellement associatif. Je travaillais dans le secteur de l'économie circulaire et en particulier dans celui du recyclage des déchets, dont j'étais un petit peu mobilisée à la cause environnementale, mais c'est vraiment dans le cadre de mon mandat parlementaire que je me suis fortement engagée sur cette problématique-là, et en particulier au sein de la Commission des finances, et en particulier sur le sujet de la fiscalité environnementale, et j'y reviendrai plus tard. Tout d'abord, je souhaiterais partager un constat avec vous. Depuis 4 ans, j'ai observé dans ma circonscription et au niveau national une vraie évolution dans la prise de conscience de nos concitoyens, mais aussi des politiques de manière générale, de la nécessité de prendre l'enjeu du climat et les enjeux environnementaux à bras-le-corps. Je pense que les catastrophes naturelles qui se sont démultipliées partout dans le monde, plus ou moins proches d'ailleurs, que ce soit les coulées de boue au Japon, que ce soit les inondations récentes en Allemagne, juste à côté de chez nous, que ce soit les incendies en Amazonie, je crois qu'on se rend bien compte que les